The story of Job is one of the most fascinating and enigmatic narratives in the Bible. It invites us to reflect on the nature of suffering, divine justice, and human faith. Job was a righteous and God-fearing man who lived a prosperous and blessed life. However, his life takes a dramatic turn when God allows Satan to test him, taking away everything he possessed: his wealth, his family, and his health. Throughout the narrative, we accompany Job on his journey of pain and questioning. He finds himself confronted with the loss of everything dear to him and wonders why he is being subjected to such a trial. His friends arrive to console him, but end up accusing him of having committed some sin that has triggered this tragedy. However, Job maintains his integrity and refuses to blame God, even in the midst of his suffering. The narrative of Job presents us with a profound insight into the nature of suffering and the relationship between human beings and God. Job, a righteous and God-fearing man, is confronted with a series of calamities that shatter his life completely. His wealth, family, and health are taken away, and he finds himself in the midst of a whirlwind of pain and questioning. Throughout the story, Job dialogues with his friends who try to offer answers and justifications for his suffering. They believe that Job must have committed a grave sin that has triggered this ordeal. However, Job refuses to accept this simplistic explanation, maintaining his integrity and his faith in God. Job's journey is marked by a deep search for understanding the meaning of suffering. He finds himself confronted with the apparent injustice of his situation, as he has always lived a righteous life dedicated to God. This experience leads him to question the nature of divine justice and to wonder about the purpose of his trial. In his dialogues with his friends, Job expresses his pain and indignation. He challenges the simplistic view that suffering is always a consequence of sin. His search for answers leads him to confront his own conception of God, questioning whether the divine being is truly just and benevolent. As Job grapples with his doubts and questions, the narrative invites us to reflect on the complexity of human suffering. There are no easy answers or simplistic explanations for the trial Job is undergoing. His story challenges us to abandon the view that suffering is always a consequence of sin and to recognize the depth and mystery of the relationship between human beings and God. Throughout his journey, Job finds himself confronted with the limitations of his own understanding. He realizes that he cannot fully comprehend the divine plans and that ultimately his faith must be sustained even in the absence of definitive answers. This lesson of humility and trust in God is one of the central teachings of the story of Job. The narrative of Job invites us to reflect on the importance of perseverance and integrity in the midst of suffering. Despite all the trials he faces, Job refuses to renounce his faith in God. He maintains his integrity, rejecting the accusations of his friends and refusing to blame the divine being for his situation. Job's stance is fundamental to the understanding of the story. It shows us that faith is not a shield against suffering, but a force that allows us to face it with dignity and perseverance. Job teaches us that, even in the face of the greatest adversities, we must maintain our integrity and our trust in God. Throughout the narrative of Job, the figure of God assumes a central yet enigmatic role. The divine being is presented as the ultimate source of Job's suffering, having allowed Satan to test him. This apparent divine injustice is one of the main points of questioning and reflection in the story. At the same time, Job maintains his faith in God, even in the midst of his pain and doubts. This tension between suffering and faith is fundamental to the understanding of the relationship between human beings and the divine. The story of Job invites us to reflect on the nature of God, his justice and his mercy, and how these attributes manifest in human life. Towards the end of the narrative of Job, the divine being finally manifests, responding to the protagonist's questions and challenges. God reveals himself in all his grandeur and power, confronting Job with the vastness of his creation and the limitations of human understanding. In this moment, Job is confronted with his own finitude and the need to recognize the sovereignty of God. He realizes that his search for answers and his indignation in the face of suffering had their roots in a limited and egocentric vision of reality. The divine intervention leads him to a profound transformation in which he abandons his complaints and surrenders to the majesty and wisdom of God. The story of Job ends with the restoration of the protagonist's prosperity and happiness. God rewards Job's integrity and perseverance, returning to him everything he had lost. This conclusion leads us to reflect on the nature of divine reward and how faith is rewarded even in the face of suffering. Throughout the narrative, Job underwent a profound spiritual transformation. He learned to trust in God even in the face of adversity, to recognize the limitations of his own understanding, and to surrender to the divine wisdom and sovereignty. This journey of faith and personal growth is the true legacy of the story of Job, inspiring us to face our own challenges with integrity and trust in God. The story of Job is a timeless and profound exploration of the human experience of suffering and faith. It invites us to grapple with the complexities of life, the nature of divine justice, and the limits of our own understanding. Through the journey of the protagonist, we are challenged to confront our own doubts, to maintain our integrity in the face of adversity, and to ultimately surrender to the wisdom and sovereignty of God. The narrative of Job reminds us that faith is not a guarantee of a life free from suffering, but rather a source of strength and resilience in the midst of life's trials. It teaches us to trust in the divine plan, even when it seems incomprehensible, and to find meaning and purpose in the midst of our pain. The story of Job stands as a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit and the transformative potential of faith.